Good morning, good evening, and welcome to episode 2 of our new series of the Global Insights podcast with my partner in crime, Charlotte de Brabant, once again. Episode 2 on our series on hyper leadership. This episode is about decision-making speed versus decision-making quality. Very interesting topic, following on from our last session, which was really just learning about hyper leadership. If you haven't listened to that one, I'd encourage you all to go back and listen to that episode before this one, so this one makes more sense. Assuming you've all heard the first episode, I'm going to go straight into question 1. So Charlotte, welcome. Nice to see you again. Charlotte, leaders today are under pretty immense pressure to move faster and quicker. So how do they avoid sacrificing the quality of the decisions they're actually making while still maintaining that swift momentum that the business wants from them?
Yeah, Max, very good question. I think many leaders can relate with this question. And I think the biggest misconception is that speed and quality are opposites. In reality, the real enemy is indecision. And hyper leadership, it reframes decision-making by categorizing decisions instead of treating them all the same. Most organizations, they slow themselves down by applying heavyweight processes to some lightweight decisions. I mean, how many of us have gone through these episodes? So leaders need to distinguish really between decisions that are reversible and those that are irreversible. And reversible decisions, they can include pilots and experiments and some process tweaks, and they should be made quickly and as close to work as possible. And these irreversible decisions, such as looking at ethical boundaries, some major investments, they then deserve this deeper process. So speed comes from knowing really which it is.
Oh gosh, I've seen this so much, and a lot of the time I've seen great ideas, projects, concepts come up through the team who really want to make a name for themselves. Leaders get hold of this stuff. It could drive the future of the business, and then they get pegged back by this indecision, which you talk about there. Absolutely true. It's probably because, and like you said, it's probably because they're scared of making the wrong decision. So, where you talk about those differences between reversible and irreversible decisions, and knowing which is which, so you can make the difficult decisions in a more thought out time, make the faster reversible decisions in a faster time because there's less risk. Why do organizations struggle so much with that then?
I think it's really because fear drives behavior, and leaders, they fear being blamed. So they escalate decisions unnecessarily. And this, I think, it really creates a congestion at the top and signals a lack of trust. So over time, teams, they stop taking ownership, and decision making slows even further. So hyper leaders, they actively design decision rights. They make it explicit who decides, who advises, and who executes. And this clarity alone, it can dramatically increase both speed and quality.
Okay, so we've seen, again, lots and lots of teams, businesses using AI more and more and more, in some really harnessing the power of it, others just being quite reckless with its use. When we talk about AI for change and decision-making dynamics, so leaders are actually using it to help them make decisions, how does that help them? How does that change things?
Yeah, well, that is my sweet spot question, especially now coming back to AI and AI, it dramatically increases the availability of insights, but it doesn't remove the responsibility. And the risk is that leaders outsource thinking instead of augmenting it. And AI is by all means excellent at pattern recognition and scenario analysis, but it lacks this contextual judgment and ethical awareness. And then you have hyper leaders. They use AI as a challenger, not an oracle. They ask, what assumptions is this model making? What data is missing? What are the second order effects? The leaders remain accountable for the decision, regardless of how sophisticated the tool is.
Okay, so let's go back to the human aspects of this. A word that, or a phrase that I've heard many leaders say and talk about is gut feel. Now, I don't think that really is what making your stomach make the decisions. I do think it's talking about intuition, though. So, what role does that still play in modern leadership? That intuition and that just that gut feel, for want of a better phrase.
Oh, Max, brilliant question. Expert intuition is very much more valuable than ever, but only really when it's continuously refreshed. So intuition is essentially compressed experience. If leaders operate in echo chambers, intuition, it degrades into bias. So hyper leaders, they actively expose themselves to diverse perspectives and dissenting views and unfamiliar domains. And this keeps intuition sharp and relevant. So the goal is informed intuition and not instinctive reaction.
Okay. So I think that makes absolute sense. I think it's a mix, isn't it? And leaders and these hyper leaders, these new sort of breed of leaders we're talking about here, need to embrace both sides of that. So it's that emotional intelligence, that compressed experience, leading to making the right decision based on intuition, but using technology and AI to assist and enhance those decisions. So that decision-making pressure then translates into the teams as well. So how do the teams improve that pressure in decision making as well then?
Altogether by reducing ambiguity. So pressure amplifies confusion and leaders must simplify. So having clear priorities, explicit decision ownership and short feedback loops, and these are really essential. And then teams don't need more urgency. They just need more clarity. So leaders should also normalize learning from imperfect decisions. When teams know they won't be punished for thoughtful risks, then the whole decision quality improves over time.
Okay, absolutely. That makes sense then. I think you're never going to make the right decision all the time anyway. So, knowing that teams won't be punished for sort of thinking things through, taking some risks, deciding where they might be able to grow and thinking for themselves. It's like a child sometimes. You have to let it make its own mistakes and then it will learn better than if you micromanage everything. So I like the fact that hyper leadership's talking about, again, those human concepts of true learning, really, and true experience based on taking risks and pushing yourself forward. What's the most common decision making trap that you've seen then? What is the pitfalls of this?
I've seen, waiting for perfect information in fast moving systems. I think that's it. Perfect information just arrives too late to matter. So hyper leadership accepts uncertainty and treats decisions as hypotheses to be tested and not really the verdicts to be then defended.
Excellent. Thanks again, Charlotte. That's been another really interesting episode. Great to have a think about decision making. I think it's something that everyone faces. I don't know how many decisions we make in a day, but I know that it's hundreds, if not thousands, every single day. So we all could do with better decision making powers, I'm sure. If we're trying to be leaders, if we are leaders, if we're looking to grow our leadership roles, we have to adapt and embrace these concepts. Any further thoughts from you, Charlotte, before we finish?
Happy decision making, guys.
Thanks again, Charlotte. See you on the next episode.
See you. Thank you.